I'm sorry, is that Jeff Bezos?
It is.
Oh, you know him? I mean, everybody knows him. He's a self-made billionaire. Well, warehouse workers report not even having enough money to take the bus after doing 9-hour shifts of calisthenics. And Amazon workers are injured at double the rate of what is the industry standard. 6.8 serious injuries for every 100 workers in those warehouses. I guess 2-day shipping comes at a cost. Human lives. Employees documented temperatures in storage containers reaching 145 degrees Fahrenheit. While Jeff Bezos is getting richer, he made $4.22 billion according to leaked IRS documents and only paid a less than 1% tax rate on it, which means Jeff Bezos is getting rich off of workers who might be on food stamps or taking public transportation that's been partially paid for by you.
Hi, here's a list of things I find worthy of revolution. Number 1, people Ubering to the hospital because ambulances are too expensive. That's dystopian. Revolution. Going to a hospital that's covered under your insurance, but the doctors they hired are not covered, and they did not tell you that, so you have to pay full price for those doctors. I feel like they go out of their way to make our lives harder. Having a college degree, but the starting pay at the job with that degree is only $16 an hour, which is not enough to live, much less pay back your loans. It's almost like they want us to be in debt forever. Having to go to mass casualty training as an elementary school teacher. Revolution. It sounds like this is an SNL skit, but it's literally not. Revolution.
I feel like that guy deserves a standing ovation. That video hits me every single time. Today, we're going to start off talking about parasites. I know, totally unexpected topic for my channel. Humor me for just a second. For almost as long as planet Earth has existed, parasites have also existed. Predatory organisms unable to reach their biological potential without sapping the life out of other life forms. Fungus, protozoa, nematodes, castoda, viruses, bacteria, and the likes. Some parasites just skim a little bit of life off of their host organism, while others exploit the host in totality, causing death. Parasites are new, but there are new forms all the time. A variation on a life-sapping theme. Today, I'd like to focus in on the current most threatening parasites that are sapping the life, the health, the homes, and the relationships out of all of us and threatening to destroy our families and our lives even more than they already have. The big rich bosses who run the corporations, the billionaires, the Trump buddies, and other resource hoarders that have changed everything and turned us all into their serfs. I'm Jenny Gage, and this is Life Take 2.
That's good.
And that, my boy.
The painting report. Doesn't know.
Hello, bye.
Hi guys, thanks for watching. I'm Jenny, and I just love you guys. I had some time this morning to go through some of my comment sections, and it kind of gives me hope for humanity. There's a lot of good people out there. Most people in the world have probably seen a video of Ballerina Farm. They're so homey, so idyllic. Their families out in the fields together, smiling as they herd their fancy Swiss cows. And by the way, I've seen some of those fancy Swiss cows in real life. I've been to Ballerina Farm. I didn't pet the cow, but I could have if I wanted to. The kids are out there chasing the chickens and milking the sheep. Hogfathering Daniel tosses the hay up onto one of his ATVs. Hannah's in there kneading the sourdough while Flora Jo clings to her leg. It's so beautiful. A couple of weeks ago, they were at the rodeo and the brothers were out there roping horses side by side. Later, we see them back at home with the kids in the kitchen flipping pancakes on a cast iron griddle. And you know the smell of butter and flour is just permeating their kitchen. It just feels so right. It feels human. And it feels like something the rest of us have all lost access to. That's why families like Ballerina Farm capture our attention so much. It's not because women should be barefoot in the kitchen, or because men should be riding Broncos while their wives bake sourdough, or because all the kids should be homeschooled. It's because we're all starving for that togetherness, for family as a tribe, for cooperative work, land ownership, security, a place to call our own, for a way of life where everyone has a role, where we create something communally with our loved ones side by side. It's literally what human beings are wired for. That's how we're supposed to be. American families right now are really struggling. We're in trouble. Dads are working overtime while moms also hustle to earn money and care for the home. Most people are barely surviving on 2 incomes. Gen X can't afford to rent an apartment, let alone buy a house and move out of mom and dad's place and start a life. Younger kids are just sitting at home staring at their iPhones. Homelessness has turned into practically its own pandemic, and all ages are stressed and depressed. Child poverty is soaring, obesity is soaring, divorce is soaring, overdose deaths are soaring, male loneliness is soaring. The only thing not soaring is our incomes, our retirement accounts, our safety and security, our sense of belonging, happiness. You know what happens when life feels chaotic? We try to find security. And often that looks like leaning into tradition. We've been through a lot together the last several years. We had the pandemic that never stopped. I have friends who are dead. I almost died myself. In Gaza, war in Ukraine, this economic roller coaster, crazy election cycle, so much uncertainty. Our everyday lives are full of school shootings on the news, plane crashes, homelessness, fentanyl overdoses, and just so much crap. It's stressful. We all want our safe place. A lot of us don't have that anymore. You know who gets blamed a lot for this? Feminists. I had a conversation in real life just a couple weeks ago where somebody was saying that they felt like why everything has gone off the rails is that families have been broken up. And I agreed with that statement. And then this man, have to point out it was a man, followed it up with, it's because women are working and they're all getting divorced. Feminists like me get blamed for the state of our families a lot. No-fault divorce, the fact that we have jobs now and we want to be independent, so we're just going out there in the world and doing whatever the hell we want to. You'll hear people say things like, we've all turned away from God's plan for families. The family is supposed to be husband, wife, nuclear family is supposed to be the foundational building block of American society, and women have screwed that up big time. Do you guys remember J.D. Vance during the election talking about how childless cat ladies were completely irrelevant in America, and just the disdain that he had for women who just aren't sitting at home baking sourdough bread and popping out babies?
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies.
Oh, JD. Boy, here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. The Tradwife movement and a return to 1950, and all of us going back to what Ballerina Farm is pretending to be on camera but is not in real life, is not the solution. And feminists are not the villains. The villains are the greedy-ass rich dudes and the corporate men who destroyed the real traditional family. Donald Trump and his oligarchs, the ultra elites of today and yesterday and the day before that. The old school elites who gave us the system that we're all living out right now. They are engaged in a war on the poor that has been going on for far too long. For thousands of years, extended families, aka tribes, worked together. Every member of every family all worked together from, guess where? Their home. Spinning wool, tending gardens, grinding flour, raising animals, running shops out of their homes, working the fields, building, hunting, repairing. Children were all part of it too. We didn't ship them off to school all day. Helping, learning, contributing, apprenticing, learning the things that they would need to know so that they could take over and run the family homestead themselves someday. It wasn't perfect, and I want you to know that I'm not romanticizing the past, but it was a shared life that has worked for hundreds of thousands of years of human history. Cooperative tribal ventures and self-reliance got us to where we are as a species today. Again, it's what we're wired for. Then came the Industrial Revolution. The machines, the factories, the progress that ripped people away from the home, away from their homesteads, away from their tribes, causing sudden, widespread tribal decay and mass dependency. Those two things always have to go together. First, the tribal decay, and that leads to dependency. Men were dragged into mines, mills, and assembly lines. Women and children, too, forced into wage work as the cost of living soared. As the tribal decay spread, families fractured completely, not because of feminism, but because of greed. Corporations, these mega parasites at the top of our socioeconomic structure, needed labor. They needed warm bodies on factory floors and in offices. They also needed us tired, indebted, and dependent. So they invented a world where you leave your homestead every day, where you leave your tribe, cram yourself into a car or a train, sell your hours to a boss who doesn't value or fairly compensate you, and then come home too drained to build anything at all with the people who matter most. And because nobody's at home anymore, we can't grow our own food, build our own barns, teach our own kids, raise our own horses for transportation. We all have to buy it from them, which makes them even richer. We are making all the cheap crap, then buying all the cheap crap, which leaves us with no money and no time for the people we love. Do you know that just 100 years ago, going back to 1925 in America, we made something like 80% of all of the goods in our home? Our own wool, our own food, chopped down our own trees to make our own houses, grew our own horses. And now I haven't made anything. I make nothing. We make nothing. We are perpetual consumers. And here's what's really sick. They broke us apart on purpose. It was innovation and progress in exchange for healthy tribes and family working time together. We lost those to keep us from blaming them and knowing who was really behind all of the misery that we're suffering. They started feeding us lies. Rich-ass megachurch pastors screaming from their pulpits on Sundays, politicians, podcasters, advertisers, movie producers. They told us that feminism ruined the family, that women working destroyed the home. It was the lesbians' fault. Single moms, no-fault divorce, and you name it. Told us we needed to give back to some golden age where the man provided and the women kept silent. Make America great again. Because we all know that America was so great in the rearview mirror. And here's a little bit of this system that I want you to focus in on right now, how that these two groups of the rich-ass men, these billionaires, with the politicians, the corporate owners, and the church rich men, they work in tandem. They're ping-ponging us all back and forth to each other. So when it gets really bad in the workforce, when life is stressed out, we go run into the mega pastors, we go run into the churches, and we're paying them money so that they can say a prayer for us and tell us that Jesus is going to make it all better. The Mormon church that I came from is almost $1 trillion institution. And this is just a constant game of ping pong between the church billionaires and the corporate billionaires. Ping, 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 ping. And both of those billionaire boys blame a lot of stuff on the feminists. Crazy little rebels who aren't dating and aren't having babies anymore. We're just not playing into it. Somehow a lot of this unhappiness and struggle is being placed on the shoulders of women. The birth strike, it's our fault. The male loneliness epidemic, it's our fault. The breakdown in the family, it's our fault. Isn't that just typical for whiny boys to blame mom? I am a mom, and honestly, somehow it's always my fault, right? But a magical golden age with rich boss men and their factories and corporations actually never existed symbiotically with human happiness ever. As long as we have had these rich-ass corporate billionaire oligarchs at the top hoarding our resources, we haven't been happy. The happiness we had as humans last existed prior to late-stage industrialized, suburbanized capitalism. It was based on cooperation, not corporations. Family economies, tribes, villages, shared survival. Those are the ingredients. Feminists didn't destroy any of that. But we get blamed for it by the real culprits every fucking time. Billionaires and mega millionaires and leaders and CEOs, they're the ones who fucked us up. Listen to this little nugget. For men who are new husbands and fathers.
The fact that you're never home for the first 10 years. They're going to raise a family by themselves because there's no balance in life. That idea of balance is complete bullshit. I mean, it's just bullshit. You have to work so hard to compete globally these days in every sector. You're going to work your ass off.
That is just, to me, the classical example of American greed right there. Tell your wife and your kids that you're not going to be around for the first 10 years because you're going to be climbing the corporate ladder, because that is the American dream. Let me say this again. The billionaires, the mega millionaires, the leaders and the CEOs ruined our families, destroyed our tribes. The captains of industry, the tycoons, the parasitic men, and a very few women in tall buildings who turned human beings into cogs and sold us the fantasy that if we worked hard enough, we'd get it all back someday. Maybe we could even become like them. Vanderbilt estates, their Mar-a-Lagos, their SpaceXs. They're all living their champagne wishes and caviar dreams, and our lives suck. Here's what we got out of the deal, and I feel like the cost is pretty high. We got mortgages that chain us to banks for 30 plus years, so that's most of our lives. I'm hoping that I can be a homeowner for the first time next summer. Wish me well. Fingers crossed. I'll be 52 years old next summer, so I will be 82 before I pay off that 30-year mortgage. We got car payments and insurance and repair bills that eat up our paychecks, commutes that steal hours out of every day, jobs that we hate but can't afford to quit. We got cradle to grave employment. I had an 82-year-old man check me out at Walmart here in Tucson a couple weeks ago. He was so hunched over that he could not stand up straight, and he had one hand against the counter as he was checking out my groceries. I know he was 82 because I asked him how old he was, and I asked him, why are you still working? And they said, I can't retire. This man should be home putzing around in his garden somewhere, playing pinochle with the neighbors. He shouldn't have been checking my toilet paper and bananas at Walmart. I almost cried. So we work these big, long, miserable lives for these mega rich billionaires. And in the end, if we're lucky, we get a little time together, sitting side by side in the nursing home, holding hands, our brains rotted by Alzheimer's, unable to even remember the people we worked so hard to support. That's not family, that's not tradition, and that's not a life. Here's the real enemy. When people talk about bringing back traditional families, I want you to see what's really happening. This is not a battle of the sexes. It's not women versus men. It's not feminists versus tradwives. This is class warfare. It is a war on the poor, period. The war on the poor is a very few of them versus all of us. It's not single women. It's not girls who want to finish up college and maybe not even have babies. That's not who destroyed our tribes, ripped children from their parents, and convinced us that being a good provider means disappearing from the people you love for 12 hours a day. I barely remember my own dad. He worked a swing shift as a janitor after the news station where he was an anchorman went bankrupt during the recession of the 70s. And I never saw him. I remember him most as just this sleeping lump under the covers as I tiptoed through their master bedroom to get to the bathroom. I often wonder when I engage in conversation about tradwife life why everyone is okay with dads missing in action, but not moms. It's weird. The nuclear family model we all call tradition was a new invention created by the elite boss boys who are exploiting our men to build their fortunes. And I'm sorry, but no tradwife should be okay with that. Those elites, their fortunes depended on leeching off our families and extracting our labor for themselves. They are very expensive parasites. And so here we are, standing in the ruins of what were once thriving families and communities, broke and detached and divorced and exhausted, our kids in a state of total chaos. The American greedy boys broke us, not the feminists, not the youngsters and their Snapchat, not the boomers. But it doesn't have to stay this way. I think it's time for a little socioeconomic revolution. I've been launching one myself in my own family for years. We can build something different. It's not actually up to the president or Elon Armpit Musk or the latest trend to change everything. We are writing our future right now. And let's write it well because our children are the ones who will live that future. Here's what we can do. We can return to home-based economies, not by forcing women back into servitude, but by liberating families from dependence on corporations, by supporting small businesses, co-ops, community farming, local trade, by creating lives where husbands, wives, and children work together and not apart. We're all waiting for midterm elections, but we vote every day with our pocketbooks. Our purchases are shaping the world right now. We don't need to go backwards and make America great again back there in the past. Again, the rearview mirror is not the answer. We need to go forward, away from corporate bondage toward cooperative survival. We can work as families to save money and ensure that our children get into homes, take advantage of programs that help with down payments, first-time buyer incentives. We can get off the credit card crack, save for the next car, save for everything. We can carefully consider the potential impact relocation will have on our little tribe. Maybe vacation in your dream spot, but live near your family. We can swap childcare with our friends. I did that for years. I actually started a little preschool co-op so that I could go volunteer in my son's classroom. Of course, I was a Tradwife, so I wasn't like working outside of the home, but I did volunteer 2 or 3 days a week in my son's elementary school classroom. So I started a little preschool co-op with, there were 6 of us total, 5 friends. I did the curriculum, and 3 days a week, the kids went to each other's houses. We rotated. It was amazing. I got to go to Costco without toddlers sitting in the cart, kicking me in my stomach. Boomers, maybe you can come back from your pickleball courts and watch the grandkids in our lives. We can help each other out for free. Just literally do stuff for each other. We can get the investors the hell out of the housing market. That's going to take some legislation. We're going to have to push for that. Without any legislation, we can do all we can to shop intentionally and put the big boys the hell out of business. I've personally been boycotting Amazon with the exception of a dozen or so necessary purchases. One of them was a medical thing that I had to have. Coming up on 7 years now, I'm about to celebrate my 7-year boycotting Amazon anniversary. Target too. I only went to Target 6 times last year. And we can all tell the truth. Feminists like me did not break families. The rich boys did. Shocking. They built factories and cubicles and mortgages that swallowed our lives whole. They made us forget the taste of flour we ground ourselves, the warmth of fires we built together, the laughter of children working beside us. And until we name it, until we fight it, until we start tearing down their system and building our own, we'll keep wasting the one thing we can never get back: time together. Again, this isn't about men versus women. It's about us versus them. The rich, greedy bastards at the top broke our tribes, and it's time we said it plainly: fuck them all. Do you hear the women sing? I do. Sing it like you mean it, ladies. In the words of my brilliant author friend, Robert Arnold, defiance till death. I'll be hanging out in the comments. Thanks for watching.